George Washington's Presidency by Noah Lindemann, which is me. So, we're going to talk about George Washington's cabinet, and it consists of 4 people, or 4 members. It was Thomas Jefferson, Henry Knox, Edmund Randolph, and Alexander Hamilton. Alexander Hamilton was the Secretary of the Treasury, Edmund was the Attorney General, Henry Knox was the Secretary of State, and Thomas Jefferson was the Secretary of State. Henry Knox was the Secretary of War. And this was the first cabinet, of course, because it was the first president, which was George Washington, who selected the cabinet. So now we're going to talk about Alexander Hamilton. And he was like I said before, the Secretary of Treasury. And he contributed a lot to America. He actually created the National Bank, and he is given the credit for being the father of the first national bank. And then next we have Henry Knox, and he was a cabinet member as well. He was the Secretary of War. And so basically his job was to be responsible for the military and naval affairs. So anything that involved the military and navy, he had to kind of look after. And unfortunately he died at the age of 66 due to peritonitis. Alright, so now we have Edmund Randolph. He was another cabinet member. Obviously, he was the first Attorney General. He actually was a bunch of things for America. He was an American attorney, the 7th governor of Virginia, the 2nd Secretary of State, and the first United States Attorney General, like I said before. And he was obviously a good lawyer and thorough in his work. Thomas Jefferson, the Secretary of State, he kind of brought to America a bunch of unique things. He was a unique man, and he was the Secretary of State. So what? There's a cabinet. So basically, without the cabinet, the president would struggle all the time having to do work that the cabinet does for him. Basically, without the cabinet, the president would have to multitask and work on a bunch of projects at once. And instead, the cabinet takes ideas into subgroups. There's 4 cabinet members, and they work on them, so the president has some time to work on other things. How did George Washington's leadership from the battlefield translate into his presidency? George Washington was very organized. He was very organized in his military tactics and in his presidency. He was basically a hero. He could attract people to trust him, and he was just altogether the perfect leader. So George Washington spent his days doing the business of the government and left his afternoons for meetings, social events, and dinner parties, and that is the same with today's presidents. They still follow the same guidelines, and he also made it okay for basically the president to leave the office but still be able to do work, and today that still happens. Okay, so Washington's choice to proceed or stop. If Washington had decided to run for his 3rd term as president, then most likely, obviously today, then presidents would probably be able to select a 3rd term. But he didn't, which is a good thing, because if the country gets a bad president that some people like, and if they could run for a 3rd term, then if they got the 3rd term, they'd be a president for a while, and if they're not that great, then of course there would be controversy with that. Controversy. Okay, anyway, moving on to the next slide. Washington's farewell. In Washington's farewell, he warned us of 2 things: to not create too many political parties, and to avoid geographical distinctions. And Americans' reaction to this was, everyone was sad that he was leaving, because he was such a good president. People even sent him letters, basically saying how sad they were, and thanking him for his appreciation. And our response nowadays to this, for his the 2 things that he warned us about, is today there are a lot of political parties, so we did not follow that rule. And we did keep the capital in one city since his presidency, so that was a goal that he had, and that was great that we got to do that. Thank you for watching.